performance is one thing, injuries are another. They're an unfortunate part of sports. Astros are really going through it right now. But and it seems like they've been going through it for a while now. And so I went back and I was looking. And so I just wanted to kind of do just a quick recap of, and this is an abbreviated recap because it would be a 5-minute preamble here. But Luis Garcia, TJ surgery, May of 2023. McCullers, who had, come back for maybe 8 starts and a couple of playoff appearances, ends up going back down with, he has that flexor surgery in June of 2023. Keep in mind that ended Steven Strasburg's career, the flexor tendon. This season, Jose Urquidy starts the season off in the IL with a forearm strain. JP France, non-specific shoulder injury. We don't really have any updates on him. JV had that hiccup that put him on the IL early in the season, which we never really knew what that was. He just said it was a hiccup. I guess shoulder discomfort was the most we got out of that. Christian Javier had that experiences that vague stiff neck injury. That was in April. Javier returns for a few games, but his velo is noticeably down. There was also some talk about maybe he got rushed back too soon because the team was looking for wins, but because he didn't make as many rehab starts as maybe some people thought maybe he should have. Again, all speculation. We have to defer to the team doctors on this. But then Urquidy, who's making his way back from that forearm strain, he goes down during a rehab start. And we just still don't know what the diagnosis of either Urquidy or Javier is at this point. They continue to push back the updates on that. That's part of this frustrating culture of secrecy that surrounds Astros and injuries to players. We can get into that a little bit. But I just wanted to, talk to you about, without having all the information here, what's your concern level for how the Astros are handling rehabilitation with their pitchers?
Well, we're not doctors, but we can play 3 during this podcast. If you're consuming us during a commute, honk if you're confident that Urquidy and or Javier are going to return and pitch effectively, if at all, this season. Yeah, that's what I thought. Sounds of silence. I didn't want to create chaos on the highways. Give me a little bit of credit. 2 thoughts. One, I find it more annoying than anything else, the way the Astros handle this stuff, whether it's more a non-information campaign than a misinformation campaign. If you just don't say what it is when you know what it is, you're not lying to us. You're just withholding the information. Do they think they're flummoxing the competition that around the American League West or the AL or over in the National League, to think, geez, we're not sure a month from now which pitcher might show up for the Astros. It's going to influence our entire game planning. So to me, it's just kind of power trippy and silly. In terms of the actual, I really think it's just more we're in an era of epidemic of pitchers blowing out their arms. Right? The Astros laundry list on this is unfortunately long, but look at the Dodgers. From Walker Buehler to Clayton Kershaw and Dusty May and Tony Gonsolin. The Rays have an entire rotation of starters who've had Tommy John or internal brace or flexor. It's all over the place. The Braves have lost multiple guys, though Charlie Morton keeps on humming. Another real good start over the weekend from Lord Charles. So, the Astros doing anything wrong medically or in the recovery process, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. McCullers is just not built for this stuff in terms of any durability, the series of injuries that he's had. A little bit of when it rains, it pours. But, I mean, the Padres lost, not for the season, well, we don't think, but both Joe Musgrove and Yu Darvish, 40% of their rotation went on the injured list same day over the weekend. The Orioles lost 2 guys in their rotation, Tommy John surgery over the weekend. I just think it's everywhere. But, for us, for Astros fans, it's natural to scrutinize the Astros arms race, which they've lost too many of.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a concern, but I wonder if you mix the pitch clock with not letting the guys use the sticky stuff anymore. And I think maybe that's kind of increased some of these injuries we see with pitchers. You're having to throw a pitch whatever 20 something seconds, where, baseball before that, you would have all kind of breaks with guys stepping off and all kinds of things like that. As a fan, I certainly enjoy the quicker pace game, but you don't like the injuries. And I'm looking at Urquidy here. Dana Brown's, he sounded the most concerned about Urquidy, just, based on his interview on the flagship. But it's interesting. We might have seen, if it is Tommy John, we might have seen Urquidy in an Astros uniform for the last time. He's a free agent in 2026. So if he doesn't make it back for any portion of next season, which is possible, that might be it for Urquidy in an Astros uniform. And the Javier thing, it just came to mind that's the one signing Dana Brown did get done. He talked about Tucker and Bregman and all these other guys, but he did get Christian Javier a contract extension. So you wonder if Jim Crane's going to be looking at him a little side-eyed if they paid him early and he could possibly miss most of the next, year and a half, 2 years. It's an unfortunate situation. I love watching the guy pitch, but you notice that it's not the first time we've seen his velocity kind of dip down. It goes up and down for him. They blame it on mechanics typically, but obviously that's not the case here because he's hurt. So you hope the best for those guys. But, to answer your question, Brandon, I don't know what else they can do. They're so secretive that I don't know what they're doing with these guys. It's hard for me to pinpoint the errors they're making. I guess the one thing you brought up, maybe they're bringing them back too soon. But the good news is Hunter Brown looks like what we thought Hunter Brown could be when he came up. He's starting to pitch like that. Was it 3 or 4 quality starts in a row he's had lately? Arrighetti looks like he belongs in the big leagues. So I think that's a great sign that you have some really good pitching. It looks like that sinker for Hunter Brown has made a big difference, allowing him to throw inside. Guys can't just lean over the plate anymore. So hopefully that's something that'll continue, not just a flash in the pan. But it's funny, we get all these great starts from Verlander and Arrighetti and Hunter Brown, and they're still not winning games consistently. So they still got a lot of other stuff to get their arms around here.
Someone asked Chandler Rome a while back. I think we've mentioned it on this podcast before, but it's been a while, so I'll reiterate it. Someone had mentioned Chandler Rome, or had asked Chandler Rome, is the secrecy of the Astros and their injuries, is that something that is league wide? And Chandler said that most teams, almost all teams, when they're giving an update on their guys, they'll either say what the specific injury is or give a time frame. And usually both. They will usually give both. They'll give an injury and a time frame. And with the Astros, you're lucky to get one. You're lucky to get either what the injury is. It's probably just some vague thing about discomfort of a body part. And usually there isn't a time frame, or there's a time frame, but you're not really given a specific thing. Do you think the secrecy around the injuries is maybe to divert a little bit of that criticism with how guys are handled, maybe by some of the armchair quarterbacks or some of the Twitter doctor experts who see an injury and then they go, oh, well, that injury correlates to this timeline. So maybe if they bring a guy back early and then something happens to them eventually, that it diverts criticism away from the team.
The last point's an interesting thought, but this traces back now across multiple general managers. The field manager is going to get his marching orders on this stuff. Don't talk about that. But I really think overall it's what's the point? In hockey, there's a long honored tradition, especially in the playoffs, that such and such, he has a lower body injury. Well, that's pretty vague. Well, hockey, if you tell he's got a real bad quad contusion or it's an ankle that the other team can aim at those body parts, the other team's not going to get, oh, it's his elbow, not his shoulder. I just think it's silly. And as I said, power trippy more than anything else. There's no competitive advantage derived from it. And, if anything, it just calls more attention to how you handle it. I mean, this Javier Urquidy stuff, by the time Thursday's expected announcement of doom comes, it would have been a week and a half since it was, well, we'll see. It might not be too bad. It's just soreness, this, that, the other. Just get on with it. We're all grown-ups here. Though if you're a minor consuming a Stone Cold Stros, good for you. Your parents raised you well.
Yeah, it's just frustrating. Charlie's right. It makes us, even that much more nervous and talking about it even more when, especially day after day without an update. It's really odd. And whenever you hear second opinion, it's bad. So, they didn't like something from the imaging, I guess, from the first opinion. So they're going to look at something else. And I mean, we see this all the time. Usually when there's a second opinion, whether it's football, baseball, whatever sport it is, it's usually not good. So I don't think I'd expect Urquidy really for the rest of the year. And I think we'll be lucky if we see Javier at some point, maybe in 3 months or something like that. I think that would be fortunate from the vibes that we're getting right now.
Yeah, the big story would be, the MRI came out clean. Everything looks great. Well, let's go get a second opinion.
Yeah.
The second opinion is a pretty ominous thing, and I guess it fits the characterization of this Astros season overall to this point.
Well, let's take a step back and look more macro at it. Do you think, Charlie, you mentioned there does seem to be an epidemic of injuries that are happening with pitching. But there are arguments that say, oh, well, if you look at this timetable, more guys had TJ during this year or this season, which was before the pitch clock and before the sticky stuff. But it really does seem like a lot of big name pitchers, a lot of important pitchers are not able to answer the bell right now for their teams. Do you think if this continues that MLB does anything to address this? I mean, they've put, a lot of stock in trying to shorten up these games because they feel like that's how we're going to get the lay fan. We're going to get them back in with, shorter games. I don't know that there's really there's been any correlation or any sort of like numbers that show or dictate that these shorter games have led to larger viewerships. In fact, I might argue that the end of the RSCs, the regional sports network, RSNs, I should say, the regional sports networks, that has made it harder for fans to watch games. Do you think the league responds in any meaningful way to make adjustments here after they've put their foot down on sticky stuff and after they've, drew such a hard line in the sand about games need to be shorter?
In the short term, no. Could they turn out to be very penny wise, pound foolish, that you're chasing every dollar? And so you're thinking shorten the games, better viewership, better advertising rates, et cetera, et cetera. But geez, we're losing all these pitchers and millions of dollars to injury. Aside, the Astros are 15 games behind the Yankees, and Garrett Cole hasn't thrown a pitch this season. The early indications are there has not been and just an avalanche of injuries above and beyond what they've been in recent years past since the move to the clock, and then further trimming it down from 20 to 18 seconds. With runners on base this year, it'll probably be, well, we need 4 or 5 years of data on this. Well, what damage can be done while you're accruing the data? Justin Verlander, who I have no idea if he, if I'd made $400 million and had a great family, I don't know that I'd want to be sitting in a studio analyzing games, but man, he's smart and thoughtful and expansive. And after one of his starts a few weeks back, he went into some of this stuff. I think a bigger issue is that from when kids are 10, 12 years old, throw the what out of the ball every time you can throw it. Snap off a curveball when you're 11. Work on that slider. You're only 12. Don't worry about it. You almost need the Tommy John starter set and get it out of the way when you're in high school anyway. That's throw so hard. Guys in the minors, so throw hard. Just maximum exertion every pitch. And if you get through 5 innings, that's good, right? The craft of pitching, pacing yourself within a game, diminishing the wear of tear pitch by pitch. How which tiles are the bigger ones in the mosaic on all this? I don't know. It's natural for the Players Association to, hue and cry over, see, they're tearing down our arms by their rules changes that we didn't immediately sign off on. But no, I don't think we're going to. Pitchers take all the time you want. The genie's out of the bottle, not going back in on that.
Yeah, and there's a reason they push so hard for that stuff. I think it was on Pitching Ninja's account the other day. He put opponents' average against fastballs 93 to 95 miles an hour, 246. Opponents' average on fastballs 99 to 100 miles an hour, 177. So the velocity matters, and that's why all these guys are trying as hard as they can to throw as hard as they can, and that's not going to change because proof's in the pudding right there. Guys are hitting under 200 against fastballs close to 100 miles an hour. So that's not going to change. And as far as the league stepping in, Brandon, that you asked, I don't think so. Look at the NFL now. They're basically playing a game every single day of the week now. I think the Texans have like 3 games within 10 days later in the season. I don't see MLB being any different than the NFL. They want to capitalize. They want to make as much money as possible. And some guys are going to get hurt. Oh, well, you got to break some eggs to make an omelet, I guess.
I guess so. And to your point, also how you maximize spin rate, throw as hard as you can. And Charlie, you said it, kids playing earlier, playing less sports. I mean, they used to be encouraged. They wanted you to play more than one sport, but now it's more specialized. They want you to play one sport and play it as much as you can. And the way you play on better teams is playing in all these leagues throughout the seasons. And I guess, I get they're trying to, they may break a few eggs to make an omelet, but more literally, stars are the ones that bring eyeballs to games. I mean, that's what the NBA learned. The NBA is like, you got to have stars playing the games. That's why they cracked down on the load management as hard as they did. But if all of your star pitchers are all, sitting because they're all recovering from elbow surgery, I think that degrades the product. And so, you would hope that not just for ratings sake, but for the health of the league, that the league would take a really, really hard look at what these rule implementations are doing, not just to abbreviate the games, because again, I don't know that there's been any real concrete evidence that that's going to make the game better. I mean, it's much more watchable. I like knowing that a game's going to be 2.5 hours. That's great because it's not so much of a commitment for my evening. But if the overall quality of the game is less because your star pitchers can't go out there and perform the way they used to, I don't know that your product's better.
Yeah, and I really wonder what can, much less will be done or would be done at kind of the acorn level to influence how they grow into oaks. Because, man, there are decades of Major League Baseball pitchers that we can go back and look. And I don't mean way back to the dead ball era. I'm talking 70s into the 80s where it really started to turn. But, Justin Verlander used to throw 225 innings plus year in, year out. Guys like Roy Halladay, and you go back to Jack Morris, and certainly then you get to the 80s and before that. Starting pitchers who throw 250, 275 innings per year for 8-10 years. It's not like we maxed them out 3-4 years and all their arms were dragging the ground or falling off. Guys who would do it for a decade and pitch on 3 days rest routinely, and arms held up for the long haul. And guys pitched well, right? Good pitching with location. It's not just about velocity, right? The art of pitching, and they're not developed to be durable now. And will there be a title change against that? Or is this, for better and worse, how it's going to forever be?
Well, I'm looking at our personal pitch clock here, and that's going to be it for this episode of Stone Cold Stros. If you listen on podcast and you enjoy the show, please be sure to give us a 5-star rating. I promise we're not hitting pause for load management concerns. It's just a rule. Charlie, Josh, and I will be back with you next week, but you don't have to wait that long to get your Houston sports fix, because if you subscribe to Sports Map Houston or Sports Map Texans, you're going to see some content trickle out there during the week. Like last week, Josh and I did a little breakdown of what the similarities to the Texans wide receiving core to a certain 16-0 football team from 2007. So do you want to watch that breakdown? It's up over on the Sports Map Texans channel right now, and got a lot of good feedback. So we appreciate everyone who's already subscribed there. And as far as the Astros go, hope is not a plan, but we're going to have to hope. So fingers crossed. As always, go Stros.